Hi, sailors. Last week you learned the power of adjectives with Mrs. McCaskey, and you saw a lot of real life examples, how realtors use them, how anyone in marketing or advertising or business ownership uses adjectives to make their product appealing and exciting for the consumer. And so, in that same vein of business ownership and being an entrepreneur, we're going to study a very famous American entrepreneur and business owner, and that is Milton Hershey, the founder of Hershey's Chocolate Company. So, we're going to read an article today called The History of Yum. And then later in the week, you're going to read one called The Making of a Candy Hit. And they focus on the Hershey Kiss and Reese's Pieces. And then we're going to be writing a very descriptive, beautiful piece using sentence fluency, fireball word choices, your adjectives, compound, complex, all about the experience of eating chocolate, describing it to someone as if they've never had it. So, of course, we'll have to eat some chocolate in class, and we'll be providing that for you. If you're not a fan of chocolate, we'll have an alternative, but being very descriptive. So, whatever you do in life, you will need effective communication skills, reading, writing, speaking, and adjectives are part of that. And so today we're going to get into our first article and just among your crewmates talk about and share if you could have an endless supply of one type of candy, what would it be and why? What's your all-time go-to? All right, I will pause, chat it up. All right, I'm a big fan of Twix and peanut M&Ms. Second, let's just do a little that's me if you can relate to any of these. Have you been to Lakeside Emporium? When I was a kid, we lived in Holland for a while, and there's a cute little candy store there called the Holland Peanut. Love it. And maybe you've been to some big candy stores in big cities like in Chicago. Fun. We know Lakeside Emporium, you can get a little scorpion sucker there. Continuing, who's eaten candy today? Who makes candy part of their daily life? Like every day you have candy. All right, who loves chocolate? Big fans of chocolate. And you know someone who owns his or her own company. So some of your parents might be business owners. They might own like a garage, and your dad's a mechanic. He owns his own little car shop. Or your mom runs an online company and she has her own store. My cousin, she owns Figs Boutique in Montague and sells clothing. And then my uncles have Motive Bowling, and so they make bowling balls and they sell them all over the world. Travel to Japan and big bowling tournaments and sponsored high schools with their bowling teams. So that's kind of cool. And who would like to own their own business someday? I think it's really cool. I love supporting small businesses here in our town of Muskegon. I love how businesses give back to schools and our kids. And we know Texas Roadhouse, they donate a lot back to school for your free lunches and other restaurants in town. So I think it's really awesome. And I love in social studies how we've written to them to show our appreciation and support. So today we're going to talk about business owners. And then as you read these articles, I want you to be thinking, what does it take to go into business? What kind of skills do you need to have? And so the articles don't come out and tell you, but they show you. So there's that high level reading skill of making an inference again, like we did with Skull Mountain. Who says you are somebody who does not give up easily? Milton Hershey, whenever you go into business, product and development, you're going to have a lot of setbacks, and you're going to have that grit, that resolve, that resilience to troubleshoot, to figure out what went wrong, how can I fix it, how can I produce the best product. Awesome. All right, so I think it's very cool if some of you are excited about going into business someday. That's awesome. Or your families have their own businesses. Tomorrow in your Wednesday work, you're going to read about a kid named Michael Platt. And he had epilepsy, and that took him away from being able to be athletic in a lot of his sports and be busy with swim and gymnastics. So he had time on his hand, and he turned to baking as a fuel and as an outlet for his time and his energy. And he started his own company, and he decided to model it after Tom's Shoes, where for every cupcake he sold, he donated one to the homeless, to the people in hunger that were hungry. And his big platform is all about food insecurity and people that don't have enough to eat every day. And so as a young kid, he already launched a very successful company. So tomorrow you get to read about him and watch a link. And today on top, we're going to learn about Asia Newson in our home state of Michigan, how she started her own company here in Detroit. And as you watch, I want you to think about what are some inherent skills you need to have to be really successful in selling. All right, here we go.
Now that little girl who's already becoming an internet sensation, a super seller without using any tricks. In just 3 days, you have made her the most viewed story in 2020 history on Facebook. 3 million views and growing. Here's Jay Shadler with the reason why.
The name of my company is Super Business Girl.
Okay.
Now today I am seeking a $20 investment if I'm going to purchase the necessary tools I need to expand and grow my business. Our mission is to recognize the true potential in every child.
11-year-old Asia Newsom could sell dust to a desert, or Detroit to itself.
Detroit is a wonderful place. It's been a lot of negative things on the news, but Detroit is still a great place to start a business. I mean, I sell my candles here. Like, I make pretty good money. So
Asia is co-founder and CEO of Super Business Girl, a little company she runs with her parents, selling homemade candles to buy clothes and food for needy children, as well as her own school supplies. Were you always good at this kind of thing?
well, I think so. Since I was about 4 or 5 years old, always had, I don't know, a little Powerball that keeps me going. Hey, now.
With her dad, Michael, always nearby, we watched Asia make her pitch on sidewalks, markets,
I am seeking a $20 investment.
and city barbershops.
One word to describe her: fearless.
My name is Asia Newsom.
And effective.
Thank you very much. Good doing business with you.
Has she sold you anything?
Of course. She stole my heart.
And not just his.
The name of my company is called Super Business.
Oh, good for you, darling.
Now today, I'm seeking a $20 investment so I can purchase the necessary tools I need to expand and grow my business. And then in return for the $20,
How about a $100 bill, sweetheart?
oh my.
Look at me. Look at me. What? How's that? Well, here you go, sweetheart.
Asia's classic power pitch, sealed with a kiss from a stranger. While spending time with Asia, I couldn't help wondering what she would do with that same litmus test we showed you earlier. If you had to sell that pen to me, how would you go about doing that?
Excuse me, sir. Hi, how are you?
Good.
Well, I'm fantastic. My name is Asia Newsom, and I'm known as Detroit's youngest entrepreneur. And I really need you to help me out with this $15 investment. And in return, I'll give you this beautiful gray pen. I mean, like, don't you have a notebook? You really need this.
Where's my wallet?
You're good.
So good that even when Asia fails to close a deal,
I do not even have any cash on me.
she usually manages to keep a door open.
And we're actually hosting a bazaar that maybe you might be interested in selling your products.
So I'm training to be an entrepreneur.
For cynics who might be thinking she's just running a glorified lemonade stand here, listen to these folks.
She really understands business concepts a lot better than most adults that I interact with. And it's just a natural thing.
Dave Anderson, along with his partners Mike Ferlito, Amanda Lewin, and Brian Davis, own Bamboo Detroit, a business incubator for startups and entrepreneurs.
Perfect.
A year and a half ago, Dave bought a candle from Asia on the sidewalk,
Go for it.
filmed their encounter, and raved about her sales technique to his partners.
So she came into Bamboo. I'm like, how old are you? When I was 11 years old, I was playing with Power Rangers, and immediately I'm like, let's do this. Let's get on board.
So now the company gives Asia free space and internet support to develop her business
You're going to learn this in this class.
and train other kids in the art of the sale.
They taught me about how much money do I have to invest back into my business.
Bamboo Detroit staff even offered a few tips on how she might improve her celebrated sales pitch.
Like, sometimes I can be a little scripted, but when I really add my personality and myself into it, like, excuse me, they're like, oh my God, hi, how are you? Of course, here's $1 billion.
Here's $1 billion.
I melted some wax and then I poured like scents and dyes in there
What are some of your dreams for Super Business Girl?
to have Super Business Girl stores and, you know, just different places like the Walt Disney store.
Right, sure.
They can buy my Super Business Girl merchandise. Excuse me, sir.
But not every sales pitch ends like a Disney movie. Sometimes the magic doesn't work. Cold calls and cold shoulders are just part of the game. If you just had to pinpoint the few things that people who want to be salespeople do wrong, what are they?
They're not motivated enough.
People give up.
Yes, people give up. Opportunities can walk away like that.
Of course, childhood eventually walks away too. Asia knows that and seems to be preparing for the day.
You know, you're so cute that makes the selling easier.
Well, a little bit, because as I'm getting older, it's not fading away, but just a little bit, I have to step up my game. Because it's not going away, but I don't know, it's like fading just a little bit,
Where's it going?
I don't know. To other children that I'm teaching.
They say even a candle can push back the darkness. Well, Asia's already sold a lot of candles. And tonight, Detroit's a little brighter for it.
Now today, I am seeking a $20 investment.
And Motown has a new supreme business girl.
I'm the boss of the game, that's what people call me. Now people get it right. My daddy's Money Mike, I'm bona fide. Super business girl.
And you can see.
All right, so talk amongst your crewmates. Watching Asia Newsom, what are some strategies that you need to be successful in business? I will pause, toss a few out there among your crewmates. Okay, I saw that when she talks to people, she's very friendly. She lets her personality shine through. She's also very bold and brave, so she's not afraid to just go up to people, introduce herself, kind of make those cold calls. She's polite. When he interviewed her, she had a lot of energy, and she does that when she talks to people all the time. But she also has a vision for her business and dreams of what she wants it to become. And business leaders are always thinking about what are the next steps for my business plan, which is awesome. And she's a very clear communicator. She's not fumbling over words. She sells it. So that's awesome. As we read the history of Yum, I want you to think about Milton Hershey. We all know Hershey's candies, and he goes beyond just selling Hershey's Kisses. He's really expanded his empire into other types and an entire city in Hershey, Pennsylvania, where there's hotels and amusement parks and all of it. And so what are some amazing strategies that did Milton Hershey use to be really successful? And so today in Google Classroom, you just need one thing open, and that is this document. It is called Close Reading Text Comparison, all about Milton Hershey. So we'll pause and allow you to find this piece. Awesome. Thanks for doing that. Just want to give a little plug for this book. Gabby Jordan, she started her own jewelry making company when she was 9 years old, very successful, and then wrote a book. And it's just kind of like a workbook for kids who are interested in starting their own businesses. And I know some students who have been able to sell some of their artwork and crafts and cool things they've created on Etsy. I know some kids that have started kind of like their own lawn care businesses. It's just really cool. And then just strategies and things you need. So today, we're only reading about Hershey's chocolate, and then Thursday we're going to read about Reese's Pieces, his other candy, and a little connection to E.T. But as we read for both, our learning target today is that you can read closely to find information, and then also we're going to make inferences about what do you need to be successful in business. So lower level, but also higher level thinking later. So what was Milton Hershey's motivation? Like, why did he want to get into chocolate? When did chocolate get introduced? Because there was a time in America we had no chocolate. Can't even imagine it. When he created chocolate, was it similar or different from candy we already had? And then we know that all business owners, they come into problems with research and development in making their chocolate. So what problems did he have in making chocolate? How did he solve it? And then being a risk taker, what did he have to do as a candy maker to really make it a hit with the public? How did the public react? So those are our questions we're going to be working through today. And we'll get all our work done together as we go through my video. And then Thursday, it's going to be you doing Article 2 independently, answering these questions on your own. So right here, you will click on the link and it'll pull up the history of Yum, Article 1. So I'll let that load and go ahead and you do the same. Okay, good readers, before they read, they always preview the text. And so I look at the title, The History of Yum. I'm thinking about, what? This must be about kind of like the history of chocolate and candy and how it got started and became popular in America. How chocolate became America's favorite candy treat. And there's our guy, there's Milton Hershey. And I love how the Hershey bar, the label's been classic, like it stayed the same. I think that's so cool when labels do that. Like Old Bay seasoning and Morton salt. And so our article, the first page is just a couple paragraphs, second just a couple, and then just this page here. And you can actually go to the famous town of Hershey, Pennsylvania today. And it's a major tourist destination, and they have concerts. There's a golf course. There's a spa. I'll show you the website in case you want to plan a little summer road trip to Hershey, Pennsylvania, which is kind of cool. But he actually bought a town for his workers, for his people. And so we will begin. We'll answer our questions as we go along. So scroll and roll right here till you get to "It all started with a smell." Okay. It all started with a smell, sweet and delicious. The year was 1893, and Pennsylvania candy maker Milton Hershey was in Chicago at the Columbian Exposition, an international fair featuring new and amazing inventions from around the world. From the moment Hershey entered the grand exhibition hall, he was struck by the delectable scent that filled the air like a heavenly breeze. At last, he tracked down its source, and in a back corner in the hall, there men from a German company were making chocolate. Hershey watched with fascination as their modern machines transformed bitter cocoa beans into sweet chocolate candies. The beans were roasted, ground, and melted into a hot chocolate liqueur, which was then poured into molds and cooled. Hershey was already a leading candy maker, the founder of the largest caramel factory in the country. But he would soon become convinced that the future of his own business and America's taste lay in candy. Taste and candy would be in chocolate. Historians don't know who first discovered the almost magical appeal of the bitter little seeds inside the cacao fruit. But sometime around 400 BC, Indians living in today's central Mexico found that seeds could be eaten when roasted and ground. By the year 400 AD, Mayan Indians were drinking a chocolate beverage, cocoa powder, mixed with water and spices, and they were writing about the supposed incredible health benefits. Over the centuries, the popularity of chocolate drinks spread to Europe and the American colonies. So our first question was, what was a candy maker's motivation? And so we think back, all of a sudden he's at this big fair and everybody's got these awesome inventions. And what really struck Milton Hershey was the smell. And so the adjectives we see there, delectable and heavenly. The smell was sweet and delicious. And so the smell just kind of arrested him and stopped him in his tracks. And he's like, oh! Okay. So we'll say the heavenly, we'll use a sexy word, the heavenly aroma of chocolate. It's like, what is that? Okay. So you teachers, you can pause as we go through. And then we're just looking for, when was a candy introduced? And was chocolate similar or different from candy that's already out there? Okay. So his motivation was the smell, kind of transfixed him there. All right, continuing on. So we know that chocolate, it dates back until, early times. And the Mayan Indians, they were kind of the first makers and users of hot chocolate and thought it was like, nectar from the gods and this amazing health benefits. So let's go to page 2, and this is our final page. By the time Milton Hershey was building his caramel company in the 1880s, candy was widely available in the U.S., but it was expensive, difficult to produce, and uneven in quality. America's most popular treats, those are penny candies like peppermints, lemon drops, and other small sweets sold from large jars. Recipes for many of these sweets had come from European immigrants. Italians, they were known for their hard candies like jawbreakers and fireballs. Remember fireballs? Germans, they specialized in candies made from almond paste and spun sugar. America's first candy makers toiled in tiny home kitchens. But by 1893, dozens of large companies like Hershey's were all working to satisfy America's sweet tooth. So what were the first candies like? They were really nothing like chocolate. So you think about going into like the little dime store or the drugstore, and they had these big glass jars. And what were they filled with? They were filled with like hard candies, like lemon drops and jawbreakers. My grandma always had a big glass candy jar in her house on her shelf, and it always had butterscotch candies. And my grandpa always had like the golden wrappers of Werther's Original. So the first candies, what were they like? Were they soft and creamy like chocolate? Heck no. They were hard, small candies like jawbreakers and fireballs. So we shall put that in here so we don't know exactly when chocolate was introduced yet, but we know it was very different from candy that was already existed. So we'll put it was different from the hard candies already invented, like Jawbreakers and Lemon Drops. Okay, I will pause there. Okay, and so we're still looking for when did chocolate really hit the market and was introduced here in America, and then what problems did he encounter? How did he solve those problems? All right, continuing our adventures with Milton Hershey. So Hershey bought the chocolate making equipment right from the floor of the Columbian Exposition and had it shipped back to his caramel factory in Pennsylvania. So this guy, he didn't, hem and haw about it. He just did it. So he's quick acting, jumped into the risk, went for it. I like that. He hired 2 chocolate makers, and soon the company was churning out chocolate candies in more than 100 shapes. His new venture was a success, yet Hershey wasn't satisfied. His chocolates, they were tasty, but he was determined to make a chocolate that was lighter, creamier than Americans had ever tasted. The secret, he knew, was to add milk. Swiss chocolatiers had been making milk chocolate for years, but their recipes were closely guarded secrets. If Hershey wanted to offer milk chocolate, he would first have to figure out how to make it. So I love that. He's not just, I'm successful, that's cool, I'm good. But he always wants to become better, to have that edge, to constant improvement. I think it's an awesome life lesson, just a skill to have that edge in business and be competitive. And so we're going to figure out what was some of the problems. It was good, but he wants it lighter. He wants it creamier. That's his next mission. So his team, they worked for 16-hour days, month after month. Their challenge was that milk, which is 90% water, and cocoa butter, which is mostly oil, those don't blend easily together. And when they are finally mixed, they quickly separate. So time after time, Hershey's milk chocolate experiments ended in oily messes. Finally, in 1900, Hershey succeeded. He sold his caramel business for $1 million so that he could focus completely on chocolate. He bought 1,200 acres of Pennsylvania farmland and built the world's biggest chocolate factory and a town named Hershey for his workers and their families. By 1915, Hershey's nickel bars were the #1 candy in the nation. It'd be pretty sweet if you could still get a Hershey bar for a nickel. Love it. So we know a couple things now. When was this candy really popular, #1 in the world? We got a date here, 1915. That's awesome. So they've been with us for over 100 years, making our lives great. And we know some of the problems he had. What was a problem when he's trying to combine cocoa butter and milk? The problem was they didn't blend. They would separate this disgusting messes. And so let's go ahead. We've got some answers here. So the milk and cocoa butter didn't mix and would separate into gloppy messes. So you can't sell people this disgusting thing that's all gloopy and not, adhered together really well. So the text tells you kind of how he solved this problem, and it was just mass hours of troubleshooting. What did he do? He put his research and development team on it, and they worked 16-hour days to develop a formula that worked. So this is just trial and error. This is just troubleshooting. This is just grinding it out. And I think that's just so undervalued today in America. We just always want quick fixes, and just that hard work and figuring things out and rebounding from failure and working through setbacks. That's so important. This is an awesome lesson for him to create his great chocolate empire. And so we know he took a big risk. He had a couple risks as he made this chocolate empire. But first, let's go back and when the candy was introduced. We have 1915. And let's go back and look at some of the risks he took. One risk, and that is you have to invest. Right there on the floor of that factory, of that Columbian Exposition, he bought all of that factory equipment to make chocolate. He just went for it. So that's a big risk. He made a big investment for the machinery to be able to make chocolate. So that's pretty cool. We'll have that. Let's look for a second one. Okay, so here we have he bought his chocolate making equipment from the floor of the Columbian Exposition, shipped it back to Pennsylvania. So that couldn't have been cheap. So major investment. And then also he was good with his caramel business. Caramel, whatever you want to say. But he sold it I'm going to focus over here on chocolate. I want to narrow my efforts. I want to be great at one thing. So sometimes the enemy of the great is the good. I could just settle and be good with caramel, but I want to be great. I want to be great with chocolate. So he sold that to focus. So that is a big risk. And then also, I think buying 1,200 acres, hoping that this will really pay off, was a big risk. So you've got a couple here. Buying the chocolate machinery as an investment was a major risk. What else? Selling his caramel business was a risk. Buying 1,200 acres for a town and company was also a risk. Okay, so I'll pause there. All right, and finally, how did the public react to those Hershey bars? Visitors who flocked to Hershey, Pennsylvania admired the tidy streets and the impressive factory, but perhaps the town's most unique and memorable quality was the smell, a chocolatey breeze that filled the air, the same heavenly smell that had captivated Milton Hershey decades before. So there's another awesome verb here, captivated, kind of like yesterday you had transfixed and mesmerized, to be awestruck, take your breath away. But yes, Hershey bars, number one candy in the nation. And who still loves Hershey bars today? Heck yeah, especially making s'mores. So they became number one in the nation. Way to go, Milton Hershey. Way to be risky, way to be awesome, way to invest, way to be a visionary, all that cool stuff. Okay? So if you need to go back, you can use the rest of the hour to go back and fill in answers or look for them. They're right there in the text. But tomorrow, we're going to take it another level. We're going to look at how he expanded into Reese's Pieces, because he had to compete. He had to compete with those people from Mars that were making M&Ms, rival companies. You got to stay sharp. You got to stay hungry. You got to stay competitive. And we're going to look at ultimate business strategies. The text will not tell you these, but you have to think and make some inferences here and find some evidence. Article 1 has some great evidence as Hershey as a risk taker, as a leader, as a visionary. Today, you may go to Hershey, Pennsylvania. We were there on a little road trip as kids, went on our way to Delaware to visit family, but we made our parents stop in Hershey, Pennsylvania. It's awesome, big resort, tons of pools, but they have Hershey Park with tons of like amusement rides. There's a water park, some roller coasters, there's shopping, there's Chocolate Town. They have a spa there. And so if you click on this, is just interesting, I think, things to do. You can go to this. There's restaurants, dining, shopping. There's golf. Apparently, there's a falconry experience there at Hotel Hershey. But when we were there, we got to tour the factories, and that they did. It was really cool to watch how chocolate was made. So, great American entrepreneur. Now you know a little bit about chocolate hitting the shelves in America's candy companies, and our guy, Milton Hershey. So tomorrow, enjoy our little article and video clip about Michael Platt and his cupcake business. And the rest of the time today, I want you to just make sure that your organizer is complete with your answers. We look forward to seeing you back here on Thursday. Thanks much.